Welcome, friends, to the Great British Mickey Waffle, our mid-month show for January. And do we have a show for you? As we turn back the clock and catch up with the Disney journey of Josh and Morg, who completed their summer Disney college program last summer. And having had them on the show twice last year, we've given them a little bit of time to reflect and to decompress from that whole experience in order to actually be able to talk about it.
Now my wheels in motion and my windows open with the wind blowing in my hair. I'm driving down the highway, gonna do this my way. I can feel it in the air. Here
I go. Claire joins me as a proud mum of Morg. And we both had first-hand experiences of this from a parental perspective, actually culminating with us actually all being there in August to fly home with both of the boys. So before we go on, we've got the first of the month show came out. We've got that under our belt. January seems to be the longest month in history. So hopefully this is going to be the type of show that we can guide you through. So welcome, Claire. And thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
it seems really odd, doesn't it? I mean, it seems such a long time ago that
I know
all of this matters,
It's such a process, and I think that it feels like forever ago, but also like 5 minutes ago. It's one of those things that it's the summer seems. I think because we're surrounded by snow and hail and rain and wind and floods, and thinking back to the summer heat of Orlando. It feels like a very long time ago, but
we might come to that. The use of air conditioning and finding places that you sweat from that you never knew.
I think the UK has gone. What's the term? 101? Is that the right term?
Yeah,
generally.
Exactly.
Shut it down. Put the covers on. It's really. It's great to be able to catch up with both Morg and Josh today, and just to round off the experience and to give that feedback afterwards. I think we've had so much feedback about the shows they've already done in terms of people understanding what's involved in the college program, the cultural exchange program, and the process getting to the point of being there. And everyone has said that they wanted to know how it went. So this is hopefully going to be interesting for anyone who's interested in the future as well. If you're a listener who's interested in going and doing it, or you've got somebody in your life who's interested, then this is some useful information for them, probably. Very
much so. And again, if you've got any more questions, get in touch with us.
Yeah.
Go to our Facebook community. Get in touch. We will reply personally to you, because actually we know what a massive experience this is, and we'll get back to you. Before we begin, let's just welcome in Morg and Josh, and actually. It's really weird because as time of recording this, it's been that big sort of Christmassy bit, and we're now in January, and you're both back doing what you're doing at university and working hard and things like that. So thank you for giving time up for us, and let's take it. Let's cast the mind back to the days when it was warm. I think that's probably the best place to start in. But
yeah,
a distant memory.
It certainly is. But welcome to both of you. I'm going to start it off, right? Because just like where we left off, we were at that exciting bit, was your bags were nigh on packed, and you were then off to sunny Florida. And I certainly from our experience, one of the best things was receiving a text from Josh on board the Virgin flight from Manchester to say that the crew on board were very understanding of the fact that he wasn't yet 21, and other people who were going and doing the same journey for either Camp America or for Disney were being afforded quite a seriously generous bar service. So that was obviously a really good starting point in some ways. I dread to think how he staggered off the plane, but
I remember Josh getting into Pop. Josh got into Pop, and I met him at Pop. And he was like, I've had the best plane journey ever. I've had like 15 drinks on the plane. And I'm like, mate, that's the last drink you're going to have for a while.
Exactly.
This is the thing. It got to about an hour before we landed, and the air hostess said to me, she's like, "Oh, would you like another drink?" And I'm thinking, I've got to go through passport control. I've got to actually like beg to get into the country. I said, "No, I'm okay, thank you." He goes, "Well, it's Virgin Atlantic's 40th birthday, so you want some sparkling champagne? I'm sure you do." And I was like, yeah, okay, why not? And then next thing I know, 3 cans of sparkling champagne have been passed across to me.
Oh,
so,
amazing.
yeah.
That was a good way of starting. It really is.
Absolutely.
Right, so what we're going to do, we'll go to each of you in turn. Feel free to chip in and, and actually correct people. If Morg's telling us what never really happened, or Josh likewise is not telling us what really happened, let's get the truth out there, guys.
You mean how much Josh loves Thai bus?
That's
no,
definitely going to come up.
I think it will, yeah. Right, so
the hatred still stands strong.
Let's start with you, Josh, because actually I think that's probably, I think Morg's led us nicely into that. So what did your summer actually entail?
Okay, yeah. It was interesting. It wasn't quite what I would probably have imagined. I don't think any form of your mind can quite prepare you for what the job I had actually entailed. It was very hot.
You're in Animal Kingdom doing outdoor vending, weren't you? So that's
Animal Kingdom outdoor vending. Yeah. So it was very hot for a starter. I think any other park it could probably be manageable, but I think Animal Kingdom is notoriously the hottest of all the parks. It shut at about 6-7 o'clock most days. So yes, your shift ended, early evening, but also meant you started your shift early in the morning. And you worked through the hottest part of the day outdoors all day, every day, basically. So,
and as a British person coming from our climate, I think that was a bit in the outset. I know that you had issues with it. I know that.
Yeah,
certainly with management, you were trying to make them aware that a little bit of shade might be helpful.
Yeah, and especially as well. So for me, my experience, and I think any British person experience in this would be very different from somebody who will come and experience this from a different country. Certainly in ODV, there was only 3 of us that were from like the European climate. So there was me, another girl from England, another girl from Paris. Now we were the only people who were from colder climates. Everybody else was from the warmer parts of the world, which I found quite interesting because actually it meant we met so many different cultures and people from different backgrounds. But it meant that the 3 of us were the people that probably struggled the most, in all honesty. So, the amount of shade within the park wasn't particularly forthcoming. So, yeah.
You do mean like shade as in covering from the sun rather than shade as in terms of being miserable and
yes, definitely the sunshine.
Just checking.
It's worth bearing in mind, isn't it?
We'll go for the lack of sun protection.
Yes.
We'll go for
that. What really surprised me, and this is again coming at this is some of the things that were said to you from people higher up in the management side of things, were at times, from a parent's point of view, became quite irrational in a way. And I think as well, I'm probably not out of turn. There were days where you found it really tough, and you actually, by the time you finish your shift, it was so draining that there was that time where we're basically trying to get as much Gatorade into you to try and hydrate you again. And I think that's a bit which kind of surprises you, because actually, I know as a tourist, you go through days, but you can kind of opt out and get into buildings and get a little bit of aircon, try and get some drink inside you just to make sure that you stay hydrated. And that wasn't very much the option. And I think that really is something for maybe someone going in the future, is something to bear in mind. If you do outdoor vending, it might be one just to double check before you begin, and maybe ask what your options are as get the move.
I think it ends up becoming a management of expectations of yourself. I think the first couple of weeks of it, I really just tried to like plow on through it. And I was working, so the shift patterns were basically, you could be working 5 or 6 days a week. My shifts were all 8.5 hours long, which included, if I remember right, it was a 45-minute lunch break. And you get like a 5-minute break in the afternoon, 5-10 minutes. But your lunch break, you never knew when you were going to get lunch break. So you might start at 9:30 in the morning until 6 p.m., but your lunch break might be at 11 a.m., or it might be at 4 p.m., or it could be at an actual decent time to eat your lunch. So you never really knew how long you're going to be in the heat for, when you're actually going to get a bit of a break. And I think for the first couple of weeks, I think I just had the mindset of like, I'm just going to get through work and I'm going to go to the parks. I'm going to enjoy myself. As I'm sure Morg will saw it in me, that doing that 5 or 6 times a week, sometimes as well, because of the way the shift weeks work, you might be working 7 or 8 days in a row, which is relentless. Like it was basically get up, you leave Flamingo Crossings at 8 a.m. You didn't get back to Flamingo Crossings because of the way the bus times work till 8 p.m. So I ended up going to the parks after work because they all shut at 9 anyway. So it was like, you might as well. But then you wouldn't get home until about 9:30, and you're up again for work the next day, facing the same elements again. So I think it ended up becoming more of a management.
It's a lesson in life, son. There, I'm sorry, I've got to say it. It's just like it's that whole thing of burning the candle at both ends and in the middle as well, isn't it? Like,
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So there's a reason why it's students that they get to do this, clearly, because if anyone over the age of 30 tried to do that, I think they would just completely collapse. I think the fact that you're young and fit and healthy is the thing that gets you through that, to be honest with you.
But I think to sort of jump in on that, the important thing to know is that the American work week is Sunday to Sunday rather than Monday to Monday. So they can put shifts. So your days off are Wednesday, Thursday, then you're working Friday all the way through to the next, like, Saturday, Sunday. So they can make you work like 8 days in a row. Yeah. Which is what happened to Josh once or twice. And I could see the effect that had on him, especially working in outdoor vending in the heat, in the mugginess of Animal Kingdom. And I think from a management side of things, they've got a park to run. They've got money to bring in. They've got, like, there's an operation to run. And as much as you want that sympathy from them, you've also got to recognize that they've also got, like, a whole load of other stuff that they're dealing with at the same time. I know that's sort of what became a battle, I think, for Josh as well. I mean, you can tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. No, you are right. I think it became very apparent very quickly that to management, you are just like a figure who goes and just helps in the day-to-day operation. And if you don't want help, then they'll find a way to make it work without you. So to actually get over that mindset of going, right, I'm going to go and change the world and make magic for everybody, you actually sometimes just needed to focus on yourself and focus on, what was going to see you live for the next 5 days healthily, instead of pushing yourself always through it. We ended up terming them mental health days, didn't we, Morg? Where we would, from time to time, we would
mental health trips to Wendy's at 1 in the morning.
Trips to Wendy's.
$5 biggie bags.
Yeah, there were a few days where if I couldn't trade a shift that was like to make it 8 in a row, I tried to split them up, and if I couldn't trade it, then there'd be some days where you just have to call in, and it's really important you look after yourself before, going and pleasing the management, really.
I think as well. I think we've only found this out sort of latterly from actually meeting other people who work with Animal Kingdom, and then people who worked in other parks who previously worked in Animal Kingdom on outdoor vending in particular. And we met them in August. You'd met them prior to us going out, and they basically just laughed. The minute you talk about management, the management at Animal Kingdom, it appears to be a thing that is well known within the Disney community, and it's also something that actually needs to be done. So at that point, when you're actually frazzling, you try and take care of yourself and things like that. And I know being a couple of thousand miles away, it doesn't really help me sort of having to deal with it. So I'm very appreciative, Morg, of basically of how the two of you actually navigated your way through this. But again, talking about management within Animal Kingdom, that was probably the key part to it. Where I personally feel it would be the biggest thing you'll learn from the whole summer experience, Josh. And I think that irrespective of how hard it was at times, it will actually, if you are looking at a bad management team and recognizing what they do to people at your age, that will stand you in good stead moving forward. For the rest of your life, and irrespective of what line of work you go into, because if you can spot them, you can spot that, then and you know where they're going wrong, you know what the issue is. But it wasn't just you, though, was it? And I think that's what I was about to say.
No, it wasn't, and I think it's so difficult because obviously they have to make a profit, and I got to see from their end the people I was working for. They're under pressure from people above them, but they're under pressure. Like even the senior people who were like really senior to me, they were under pressure from people even higher up from that. And so the amount of strain that it had on the people I was working for, I could understand why they needed to be as strict as they could, because we were just like the baseline people to them. Mm. I learned all about how if we didn't reach the waste targets, then the whole Disney company as a corporation would get into trouble from the Florida state. They have to make a profit to make the people who they buy the product from happy, because their product's being sold in the park. So it has to be presentable and it has to actually sell. So that's what I mean. They were under so much pressure as well, but equally there was a lot of things that could have been handled a lot better. And I think certainly the way shifts were like put together, and there was people I'm still in a Facebook group now of people who are trading shifts and things like that. And you're like, if you actually had a management team that focused on like actually making a shift pattern that worked, then you wouldn't have all these people trading the shifts, because you would have people that are happy, but nobody is happy with shift release. But then the other side of that is I think they're actually short staffed. So my friend who very kindly came and visited for New Year, and got to have a chat with him and have a catch up and see what's going on there now. He, in the lead up to Christmas, worked 70 hours a week. He was working he worked from 5:45 in the morning, because they started opening the park up earlier and they've been closing the park later. And they do not have the staff to cope with extra extended hours. So he's actually being written in for 70 hours a week.
Wow.
He then works from 5:45 in the morning and he finishes, I think, about 10 p.m. at night. And so he gets home. It's about an hour drive. He lives in Celebration. So it's about an hour drive home, and he gets in at 11 and says his alarm set for 4:30 the next morning. And that is, at the minute, that's basically 6 days a week for him. So yeah, I think I don't know, maybe other parks, I think when we get to Morg's experience, is very different. But I think from Animal Kingdom as a whole, each park works as like a separate entity to each other. And I think the way the Animal Kingdom model is set is very different, and I'm not convinced it works. But yeah.
I'm going to move it on to Morg, because actually, as such an uplifting start to the show as that is, Morg, your experience was different, and I think this is another thing that maybe people going in the future need to bear in mind, as well as the fact that whereas it depends what park you're in, it depends what role you have. Tell us a bit about your summer.
I was very lucky in the park and the role I was put to. I remember getting told I was going to Epcot, and I was thrilled. And looking back on it now, having been part of that, I'm even more thrilled, because the difference in the way the entire thing ran, I think, from Josh's experience, is insane. And I feel very fortunate to have actually got to experience what I did, rather than Josh's. I'm sure Josh's Animal Kingdom chaos. I had a very different structure of my workday. A lot of my workdays started at 2 or like 11. I have between 6 and 8 hour work days. So on the days that there were like after hours parties, I'd be working till midnight and then I'd go home. So I'd often start at 4, but normally it's either you finish at 5:30ish or you finish towards 11 o'clock, which is after park close. And I was really lucky to have have a properly amazing team of leaders and other cast members around me. I was very fortunate that my trainers were all lovely, and that the leaders were as kind as they were. There was a team of 13 of them, who managed the world discovery part and world nature. That's the one. World discovery and world nature portion of the parks, the very sort of front section, really. And the way that was ran, we often heard tales of the animal kingdom management, as sort of like legend and hearsay of what we're lucky not to have.
It's just saying, Morg, where were you working? Because you
I worked in creations and Club Cool doing merchandise. And I know we mentioned before we went out there that I'd be very fortunate for the air conditioning. And I can confirm that the air conditioning was absolutely fantastic. Apart from one day where it was broken and it wasn't quite so nice.
My heart breaks for you, Morg.
I'm sure you had so much air conditioning, Josh. But on days when there were storms, I was
dry.
I was dry, but I was also lumped with a squeegee. So I'd be stood by the doors to creations and I'd be squeegeeing the water out the doors. And especially in Club Cool, the front door to Club Cool floods like no one's business. It's fun.
Is that from the inside or the outside?
Both. Depending on how much sugary drinks the children have had inside Club Cool.
Yeah.
Overspill of Beverly.
Yeah. Everyone dumps it on the
Never
floor.
in danger of that one. But yeah, no, I was very lucky. I think what I'm sort of picking up on now, especially after hearing Josh talk about his experience with shift patterns and stuff, is that I would very often work 3 days and then have a break and then work 3 days and then have another break. So I'd often have my 2-day week, my 2 days off spaced a couple of days apart, rather than going 8 days in a row and then having my breaks. But also that as merchandise, we were almost overstaffed at times. So we didn't get as much overtime as Josh did. We didn't get we had early releases that our leaders would put up like a sign in the deployment room. I'm trying to think out what to call it. The deployment room in creations, they put a sign up that says early releases are available. Talk to your nearest leader on duty today for permission. And I never took one because money's money, and I enjoyed working there. I didn't really want to leave early. To the point where actually one of the coordinators on shift said to me, "Morgan, can you take an early release?" And I went, "I'd rather not." And someone else went, "Oh, I bet."
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting.
And that's good. That's good that actually, it just seems that complete reverse of role, doesn't it?
It almost is.
Yeah, and equally, it's again probably for you, Morg, as well. It's probably a real good lesson in management that if you do take care of your staff, if you do your best for your staff, and you're actually thinking of them, then actually, in most cases, you get more out of them.
Exactly,
because actually, people, it seems such a basic management tool, but actually, it should work that way, and it should be like that. I'm going to ask both of you. I'm going to put it on the line, and I'll go to you, Morg, first, because we're probably likely to get a better highlights reel than from Josh. But give us just maybe 3 of your highlights from the whole of the summer. Come, just off the top of your head. 3 highlights.
Trying to think in order. Probably
doesn't matter what order.
Going to Portillo's with Josh and nice guy Zach Brown. That's highlight number 1, I think.
Yep.
Highlight number 2 was being incredibly awkward in Creations when someone decided to propose in front of the Pandora desk when I was working there. And I got very unwantedly involved in their proposal and its photos afterwards by trying to create a magical moment. That was a fun highlight. And then I think the final highlight would probably have to be going off property with Chris, my friend who I made in Creations, going to Bass Pro Shop and Club and not Club Cool and Baskin Robbins and doing a little road trip to Olive Garden as well. We had a little day out before we came home.
That sounds good. Josh, what about you?
It is actually difficult to choose 3 because for as much as we have talked about my complaints so far, I actually did have a really good summer. But I would say probably the day that me, Morg, and our friend Naya, we went to Typhoon Lagoon for the day. And then we went to Olive Garden after. That was definitely up there.
We got rescued by Zach.
The day, yeah. Yeah, Super Zach. That'll be another story.
Oh, yeah.
Time.
That's a story for another time, buddy.
Definitely. Definitely.
I think another one would be, it's going to sound really strange, but so there was a hurricane when we were out there, and my alarm in the morning was the Apple alert to say there's a tornado coming your way. And my work was still on, even working outside in the hurricane. And so I went to work, and anyway, they shut Animal Kingdom at 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
So I think I was in work before you, though.
I think you were, yeah.
That's one of the days I was in work before you were awake.
Yeah, well, they were trying to give me early releases and everything, and I was actually like, no. I was like, it's actually quite nice and cool. It's not busy. It's great. Anyway, by 3 p.m. I took an early release, and I was soaked. Like, I was beyond the point of being wet that I was like, I can't get any wetter. So I went to Magic Kingdom that night and did literally everything. The park was empty. Did everything. It was quite a very morale lifting experience, I would say. And then my final one, I would say probably the day, if it's to be a work experience, probably it's the day that I probably think of the most now, because it actually gave me the biggest laugh, was I served a couple who just got engaged. And so I'd said to the guy, I was like, oh, where did you propose? And he was like, oh, here in Disney. And I was like, oh, it's amazing. I was like, in front of the castle. He's like, no, I did it in Epcot. And I was like, oh, right in front of the Epcot ball. And he was like, no. I was like, oh, where did you do it? And I said, I did it in front of the Seas with Nemo. And when he got down on one knee and she'd said yes, all the seagulls went off saying mine, mine, mine. And it's the day that gives me the biggest laugh. So yeah, they're just 3 to name a lot of good days, to be fair, over the summer. We made a lot of memories. And obviously every experience with nice guy Zach Brown as well. That has to be.
So it's really hard to sum it up into just 3 experiences, to be honest. There's so many more that we could have put up there and mentioned.
Well, keep going then. Let's keep going with the highlights.
I was expecting to hear about Waffle House and
Waffle. No, this is exactly it. Is that we
feast.
The experience we made there could be split into so many. We lived so many different lifestyles out there, didn't we? That was the thing. We had our work, and then we had after work with probably by ourselves because we all work different shift patterns.
Yeah.
Then we had our days off all together. If we had days off together, then we had actually after the experience where we were on holiday out there together. Then we had everything with Zach Brown. You name it.
Can I also mention as well, because I think we've mentioned Zach already. I think Zach kind of adopted both of you as basically sort of younger brothers for the summer. I know that you're on his podcast, so if anyone hasn't subscribed to it, it's the Zach Brown Show. He is the most amazing guy. He dug you guys out of a lot of things over the summer, for which both Claire and I are really, really thankful for. What I would also say, you mentioned Naya before as well, and I actually remember the day I met her for the first time in Animal Kingdom, and it was when Claire, when your flight was coming into Orlando, and I had no idea who she was. Right, we were walking through the shop within Animal Kingdom. she was looking for us because we'd seen her on FaceTime and stuff, but I had no idea, right? And then this bundle of energy just, it's me! Hello! I'm Josh's friend Naya. And I'm like, whoa, she is the most amazing. I can't tell you how much as a young person, she just blew me away, just purely on the fact she had that much energy and positivity in her. And she's still the same, even when she's not at work, even any time we met her afterwards. And I know you guys have met her since she came back to this country. She has got so much energy. And I just think that it is that whole positivity thing that, so many people of your age need to have that within your lives and understand that actually it's really good because people feed off it, and people feed off the fact that, when somebody walks into a place and has got that real positivity about them, it makes such a difference to everyone's life. And, I will never, ever forget that meeting with her. And also the fact that we were watching Claire's plane coming in on flight radar, and it says, diverted to Tampa. At which point I'm texting Claire, you're going to Tampa? And she said, no, we're not. Pilot said otherwise. And actually, they managed to land in the face of a thunderstorm. And I won't repeat what Claire texted me because actually it was, if you got...
I'm thinking next time we're on, I think we should invite Naya on with us because I think
100%.
She definitely would live up to the podcast.
Oh, it'd be great. No, it'd be good.
That's for sure.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
I think she was the first person that Morg and I met, actually, because we had gone out before.
Yeah, you'd met her before I even got out there.
When we arrived, and we'd spent a couple of days in the parks before before I went home, before you arrived, Josh. And I think we were stood outside Casey's Corner listening to Grayson play on the piano, and then she just appeared and she was like, are you Morgan?
So Naya and I had been talking for like 3 or 4 days beforehand because I put on my story that I was there.
It's really funny.
She was like, I'm here too. Let's find an option to meet.
Yeah.
And then we were outside outside Casey's, you say, listening to Grace and playing the Muppets theme. Who should turn up? Naya taps me on the back. Are you Morgan?
It was really funny.
Honestly.
Wonderful.
And then I met her a few days later when I got out there because we'd just checked into Flamingo and we were walking through the turnstile. I think we were going to go and get breakfast or something. And she was just moving in with her mum. And she was like, oh, are you Josh? I was like, yeah. She was, yeah, I'm already friends with Morgan, so that means I'm friends with you now. So there we go.
She was right. So
she sort of hung around,
really. Shout out to her mum as well because she flew out halfway through the programme and brought us some British goods, didn't she? And really lifted the mood at the time. Yeah.
Can't speak higher of Naya, to be honest. She was such an amazing presence for us when we were out there. I think that's another thing that's really important to touch on is to have maybe not a whole wide group. It's like being at university and school and whatever other situation. You don't need a massive group of friends, which I know a load of people made. But if you really make 1 or 2 properly good friends and stick with them the entire time, I think that's what we said, didn't we? We made 1 or 2 really good friends.
Friends for life after that, though, isn't it? That's the thing.
And we didn't need to be bothered by anyone else. None of the rubbish on the group chat bothered us. There's a few stories from there that I'm not going to repeat, but...
And it must go without saying as well, we had really good flatmates too, who... though their schedules always clashed with ours, so we never particularly went and did anything fun with them, let's say. But they were always around the flat and
being goofy, being
really
being fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and also, I think one of them actually took a whole load of Great British Mickey Waffle beer mats into Haunted Mansion, and it kind of became the Bitcoin trading thing for people at Haunted Mansion. So much so that when we turned up, I think you guys were kind of a thing. When anytime it was, Josh is coming, and it was it was absolutely incredible because actually I can't remember her name. Was it M? That we met outside. Now I'm rubbish with names, right? So to remember M in particular, and I got home. Well, I think we got back to the villa about 3 days after, and I just sort of I kind of looked through and thought, what would be a nice photo for the trip report? Where And there's them fronting up the whole of the autumn and Halloween stuff on Disney's social media page. Yeah, I'm like, I know her. I know her. Just like, yeah, I'm like,
some of them are my favourite memories. Though I remember we were looking. Was it near like the end of the experience or something? And we were looking for Riley because he was working the fireworks one night.
Yeah, it was the final day of our program. It was the 15th of August.
That was it.
Me, you, Maya, and Neve were running around Magic Kingdom trying to find Riley.
Trying to find Riley,
which is honestly so weird because that's my girlfriend's name.
But we were trying to find him, weren't we? And just like say, we'd just seen him at, not just working in Haunted Mansion, but there was so many Haunted Mansion casts that were working like down Main Street. So we kept asking each individual one, didn't we? Like, oh, have you seen Riley anywhere? And it was like, you guys are on that podcast, aren't you? They were like, yeah, we are. And it's like,
aren't you?
Yeah, Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He loves you guys.
Riley's told us to listen. It's like, it's great. Yeah.
And that's how our numbers increased.
That's why our numbers spiked last summer. You see, that was it. It was everyone from Haunted Mansion that was like, oh, we need to listen to these British people. British people.
You need us to do it every summer now. There you go.
I think we should. Yeah, we'll maybe
build on it.
Well, maybe put a little proviso not to put you into Animal Kingdom again.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think the other thing as well. I was going to ask about lowlights. I don't think we really need to because I think the highlights actually outweighed massively on any sort of. I know we talked about management and things like that, but I think between both of you, you had some Disney experiences that very possibly, as a cast member, you would never ever have an opportunity to do as a paying guest. What sort of things? I'm basically. This is open to both of you because I know, Morg, you actually had, again, because of the way that things were organised in Epcot, you had a real good opportunity to go and do stuff as well. I know, Josh, actually, you had other things that were actually open up to you. But we'll start with Morg.
Yeah.
What sort of things do you get to do that minions like I and minions like Claire will never, ever get the chance of doing?
I think the really unique opportunity, both by being a cast member and by being part of the college program, is that you get to do classes at Flamingo and backstage tours, Discover Disney's. So on the dorm's website, which is what Disney use for all their like events planning and stuff and paying your like accommodation fees for Flamingo, they run Discover Disney classes. So I did a class with I can't remember his name anymore. It'll be on a photo somewhere. An Imagineer from Epcot who was there when it was being built and like formed. And he remembered climbing up the original Spaceship Earth and standing at the top of Spaceship Earth. And he told us all about the workings of Epcot and how it was created and brought to what it is today. More than what you would hear from I know there's a How Was Epcot Built documentary on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It's like that, but way more in depth. We saw the original schematics for how Epcot was in 3 different sections to begin with. That was really fun. I've got the diagrams in a notebook somewhere.
Yeah, he showed you in attraction diagrams and all sorts of stuff that you can't see online. They're not available. John, you it's like your perfect experience. Sorry.
No, I would say I was shown a couple of photos last weekend when I went to see. I went to see Josh because he went to meet somebody. But got to see some photos of attractions like you've never seen before, and I give him his due. They're not for public capacity or anything like that. But I didn't even get a copy myself. But I got to see him. Absolutely amazing.
Neither did I.
And that's but that's the thing though, and I think that's where the two of you have really got to understand. You had such a privileged opportunity of doing things that everyone who goes to Disney. We all pay a lot of money to go and experience it. You guys were on the other side, and I think even to this day, one of my highlights from last summer was just going to the cast member shop.
Yeah.
We Go to Cast Connect. Go to Cast Connections, because actually you can't just rock up there unless you're a cast member.
No, it's cool.
Yeah,
it's a lot of stuff.
But just like, and that's someone, a minion like me. Josh, what about you? Did you get anything quite as different as that?
Through the people that we were obviously friends with, we got to walk through like a little bit behind the scenes of Haunted Mansion. Got to see like the break room for Haunted Mansion, and walk through a little bit backstage. So that's quite cool. We did the same for Flight of Passage. Got to go on Flight of Passage without standing in the line, and got to sit wherever we wanted, and found out like the best seats to sit in and things like that. I think as well, something that's will go down as being quite underrated as a thing that we've now experienced and seen would be actually just seeing how Disney operates in itself. We might not particularly agree with the way it's operated, but I think it's quite cool to know, that actually things like, like waste management and things like that there actually are quite high on the agenda of Disney. They actually do like, there was even days where somebody would not, so on top of like beer cans where you have like the plastic that keeps the cans together, we all had to like cut them to like save the turtles. And if you didn't do it and put them in the bin, somebody goes through and checks them and sees that you don't do it, then they go and find out who didn't cut the plastic in half. So, just finding out little things like that, and how many bottles of Dasani water is sold at each individual station in a day, and what locations in the park you don't want to be if you don't want to see a code V or something like that, or
Club Cool.
I've had the pleasure of working in Thai bus. You
love Thai bus, Josh, didn't you?
No,
here we go.
Really didn't like Thai bus.
For anybody,
it did need mentioning.
For anybody who's listening to this who doesn't know what we're talking about, where will you find Thai bus?
Thai bus, also the Ananda Pur bus, there's like a little soft serve ice cream truck that's just by Everest, and
depending which way if you go past, if you come in past Cali River Rapids in that
on
direction,
your left-hand side,
heading towards Everest, it's there. Now, please do explain. From my perspective, one of the highlights of your summer is Thai bus, and you say soft serve ice cream.
Yeah,
in the height of summer. Go on. Yeah, do explain a bit better.
So, for a lot of people, Thai bus was a nice place to work, which I never particularly understood why. So if you work in the bus, which as a filler, i.e. you are making the ice cream or pouring the drinks or whatever, you are working in fully air conditioned. However, there's a catch because the bus isn't actually that big. And so the air conditioning unit is like a big, massive aircon unit that needs to be kept at this like really nice temperature to keep the bus like cool. It's basically blowing directly on you as you're working, which means you go from being incredibly hot to incredibly cold very quickly, and that isn't very good for you. I got sent there to close rather a lot, which as more
because you were good at it. I think that was the problem.
Yeah, that was the problem. It was the problem. I absolutely hated doing it, and the only reason I was good at it is because I wanted to get out of there.
You're almost too good at your job, Josh.
Yeah,
exactly. So the problem is, as Morg knows from Club Cool, the ice cream machines are not particularly great. But that's also because they are operating on like making 200 ice creams in about half an hour. And
hold on a second. In pure Marcus vowel terms, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Yeah. You'll never buy an ice cream from Thai bus ever again after you hear this.
That isn't me that's saying that, but yeah.
I said it.
Yeah. Actually cleaning the machines at the end of the day now.
Oh, I wasn't going down that line. Good grief.
I mean, that in itself is disgusting. No, that in itself is disgusting, where you've got like sticky ice cream that you're having to like reach up and clean into with your it's not good. Not good at all. And
at least
to be honest with you,
good grief.
Oh, you're cleaning it every night.
Yeah.
Then
I like that.
yeah, and at the actual, like, the customers you're serving at the time as well. Now, this isn't a reflection upon anybody who might be listening that has had an ice cream from Thai Bus, but 9 times out of 10,
if you are, send me your phone number. I'm coming round to your house. That's all I'm saying. That's it.
But generally, when people are getting a soft serve ice cream from you, they're very hot and very bothered, and they just want their ice cream. And if the ice cream machine isn't working, then that is your fault. So it resulted in quite a few negative interactions with guests.
God, do tell us the one that you took great delight in texting me about. So what did this one guy do? Because I actually this is one of my highlights of the summer. It was just like
probably one of mine as well.
How you actually retain a little bit of dignity and actually. And I think we've, as a show, and I know we've said this so many times about the fact that, I know we're talking about our sons who have been cast members, but being totally respectful of any cast member, it doesn't matter who they are within whatever park. It is part and parcel of everything that you basically sign up to as part of it. Doesn't matter if it's Disney holiday, Universal holiday. It doesn't matter. You have to be respectful to the people who are working there, and unfortunately, some people aren't. Go on, Josh.
I.e., when an ice cream machine is a bit on the go slow, or the ice cream that was served, it wasn't the best ice cream in the world, let's face it. There's absolutely nothing you can do. You're getting orders sent in left, right, and centre. They're stacking up. You're under pressure from management to get these orders out. So anyway, I served this ice cream, which it was adequate, it was fine. And the guy decided he didn't like the ice cream that was served, so he literally picked up the cone and poured it out onto the counter in front of me. So I was like, right, okay. So made him a new one. Now the next one was better than the first one. Still wasn't happy with it, and he literally grabbed the ice cream and shoved it right back into my hand, literally ice cream face into my hand like that. So he wasn't served another ice cream after that, but yeah. There was quite a few just negative interactions in general, specifically at that one, because it's not like an ice cream cart where the ice cream you order is the ice cream you get sort of thing. This is because it's modified and it's made by hand. Obviously, there's going to be some differences, and we're not trained to make ice cream. We're not trained to make these Yeti sundaes that we had to make, and also the Yeti sundaes which have white chocolate on the top of them. Now, can you imagine white chocolate in the heat of the Florida sun that's sitting in the bus all day as well? Beside the point, you were making
so you almost
these,
get shoved in front of the machine and expected to go, really.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah, and you train, or you literally give them one shift in your training where you're shown how to clean the machines. But the day that I was trained to do it, I was left with my my trainer. It was just us two. There was supposed to be another person, but this other person had gone home due to a wardrobe malfunction actually on the day. It was just us, and I was meant to meet in Morg in Magic Kingdom that night, if I remember rightly. And I knew I just had to get out of here. And anyway, we worked incredibly hard, and we got out about 20 minutes late, which for Thai Bus was an incredible result. So that was my training, that basically we rushed through it and just got ourselves out of there. So the actual training that you're given isn't great either. But yeah, Thai Bus is something that will live long in the memory of being a very, very negative experience.
Yeah. I actually follow a guy called Andy Bush, who's on the radio, on Absolute Radio. He does a podcast called Scarred for Life. I'm actually thinking, Josh, I'm going to send him a message and think you could be a really good candidate for going on there. And just,
you know what though, it was even a case. It was even a case of when we were there on holiday, and if we'd been there in the past, a Yeti Sunday or something, when you've got a snack credit or something, would actually be quite nice. But I was looking at that bus and I could never order anything ever again from there, knowing what the people working in it have to go through,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's part and parcel of it, though, isn't it? I think that's
absolutely
quite a nice thing.
Absolutely, because then you then got sent to places trying to think of places I enjoyed.
Trek snacks.
No, I didn't like Trek snacks either, but anything that involved cleaning at the end of the night, I really disliked. But anything on the carts was actually quite good. I found a little.
I wonder why. You might be
If
21,
anybody-
but I've had 21 years experience of you not liking cleaning. So
Yeah. If anybody listening,
one
ever gets ODV,
summer's not going to change anything there, is it? Like, you know.
If anybody listening ever gets ODV and you want to know the hack to clear out a cart on an evening and like replenish, do let me know. Because I ended up quite enjoying my carts. I got out on time once I figured it out. But no, I enjoyed working near Theatre in the Wild. That was quite good. And even though it's not there anymore, I enjoyed working by Dinorama because you got to listen to like the music and there's always characters going past and things like that. So there were areas I did actually quite enjoy.
So you had one time where Donald came and gave you a fist bump, didn't he, at Dinorama?
Yeah, that was... So I was going... This was on my run of 8 in a row. And it was like on about day 5 and you're standing there, Dinorama, which is the hottest cart of the lot of them, but actually it keeps you the most like interacted. And so one morning I was like, oh, here we go again, sort of thing. And then next thing I know, I'd never worked Dinorama. So the next thing I know, Donald's coming like to his position, which is right by the cart. And he like leans over the cart and like I look up and I was like, oh, there's Donald. And like I wave and he's leaning over, he's like fist bumping, he opens up the freezers, like tries to nick some ice cream, like things like that. So so there are quite, well, even though that's not there anymore, which is why it's such a shame to me. I don't particularly love Dinoland, but my affection for Dinoland now is
but that's a cool magical moment for you as a cast member. You know, that for guests would have been fun to see, but as a cast member, you know, to have that happen for you as well actually is really special. And it shows that magic isn't just for the people who are paying to be there. It's also for the people who are being paid to work there.
Yeah.
Be kind, people. Be kind to the cast members, people, please.
Yeah.
Before we flipped it back to Morg, though, I think the thing that struck me about Animal Kingdom was that the people you worked with were the people that like they kept you going through it because they were all going through the same thing and they were all seeing the same issues you were seeing, and you know you ended up learning that you were all part of the same cause. You were all fighting the same battles, really. Mm-hmm. So you had to be there for each other more than anything. And you know, if somebody didn't get something right, this is what I learned by the end of it. If someone didn't get something right, they weren't doing it on purpose. They were doing it because they actually just didn't have the training or they didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So actually, if you just open yourself up to like help them, then work ended up becoming a bit easier once you allowed other people to help you.
I think that's such a wonderful thing to just take away as a thing for life from the whole of your summer, because actually I think that really is where a lot of people need to open their own selves to understanding. You know, we all do different jobs, we all do challenging jobs at times, but it's actually trying to have that understanding that someone, and sometimes people are just completely useless. I openly admit to sometimes that does happen. I've worked with them and I know who they are. But at the end of the day, you can't do an awful lot about it. I would also say as well, I really admire the fact that, you know, from a parental point of view and from a dad point of view, I really admire the fact that you persevered and you actually got through, you know, a time that was challenging. And I know fine well it was challenging. I know that it was a time that I think if we'd have done this show in September, October, I think we probably wouldn't have got as much out of you as we have today. However, I think over a greater period of time, you will begin to look back at that time within Animal Kingdom and actually reflecting on places within it that we already know are not going to exist in the future. And you will begin to become a little bit annoying like me and harking back to the good old days. You know, that whole thing of like, tell you what, it was better when Dinosaur was there.
You just wait till they take Ty Bus away. Josh will be there dancing the dance. There will be no sadness. He'll be there.
You know what? Even on my student budget, and at the minute, I would love to find out how much I would have to pay Disney to get rid of that right now. And I would
I'll drive it away. I'll take it to the train track.
I'll clean it out and I'll drive it off the park. if it goes.
I'll drive it into Carly River Rapids and get rid of it.
Hand the keys back to Joe Rody and say you can stick your tie bus where the sun doesn't shine.
Give it to the Yeti.
Yeah. Oh, let's not go there, Morg. Maybe they could use part of the ice cream machinery to make the Yeti better. Let's not go there. It's not a good one. Morg, have you got anything else that you would like to add into your reflections of the summer?
I think it really is, as Josh said, the people who made it what it was. You can go out there for as many reasons you want to say you're making magic for people, you want to give back, you want to learn about what makes Disney tick, but actually when you're out there, a lot of that you don't focus in on, you sort of absorb it as it happens, but it's the people that you learn from, and it's the people that give you the biggest experience, both culturally and in terms of workplace experience. Like the lessons that I learned from people both older than me and younger than me, from like the friends that I made and the different leaders that I worked for and spoke to. Like I never picked up in a different location. And with merchandise, it's probably one of the easiest opportunities that I had to do that. But I still loved every single second. And I think I got just as much out of that as people who did pick up in every park and in every location. I may not have worn every costume, but I feel like you see as much variety and you see as much of the general public and of your fellow cast members as you would doing that.
I think that's interesting, Morg, because you definitely said before you went, you're like, I'm in merch, this is awesome. I'm definitely going to try and pick up a shift in each park so I get to that, and wearing different costumes. You had a cool costume. You had the option to wear shorts and all. It
was like pajamas.
Yeah.
I wish I had it still.
Yeah.
I would wear it to sleep in.
I remember you saying to me, do you know what, it's really cool because where I come on stage is right by Test Track, and they've just shut it, and you were able to see what was going on when they were like just closed Test Track in the work.
So it was so interesting because the first day of our training, Test was the day before Test Track shut.
Yeah.
So all the people going around, you could hear him going, ah! And I'm like, that's not going to be there for long. And then it stops. And I had 2 months of no. It was weird. It was so weird. And it was also weird because it was somewhere, I was walking through somewhere that you could actually see from the old Test Track, outdoor course. Everything that you see coming out of Test Track.
On the outdoor loop.
On the outdoor loop is where the bus from Flamingo comes in. It's where the cast costuming is.
Yeah.
Like, it was so insane walking through there. And I think that was as much of an experience and as much of a takeaway as putting on different costumes. Yeah, it was. I walked through the backstage for Animal Kingdom. I still don't understand it. I don't know how you ever understood it, Josh, because it's insane. I think it's more complicated than Magic Kingdom and Epcot's. I can't really talk about those, but I think just being there and meeting all these people and still having all these friendships. Like, we're going out, Mum and I were going out in April, and I'm so excited to see Chris and everyone else. I know one of my friends, Emily, has just started work. She lives in Australia. She finished her year-long college program a month into me being there, and now she's working for Disney Cruise Line. She's just flown out yesterday to go work for Disney Cruise Line on the Disney Treasure, I think it is. Or it's either the Treasure or the Magic. And she's going to be there in April, I think. They're docked in April. I think she's going to come over to the parks and say hi.
Oh, wonderful.
I want to pick up on something you said as well, Morg. I think that must be mentioned too, that it was people that you wouldn't even... it made these memories for us that we didn't... You might not even deem them as like friends, or just... It was like even people in passing that like they end up creating a memory somehow. Like the one I'll always go back to is on Flamingo, where we walked past that girl who was like, we were talking about Big Bear and the Big Blue House at the time, and she just chimed back going, "Where can Shadow be?" And it's like,
I told Mum about that the other day, and it was
but it was little things like that because everybody that was there had this same interest. Like we were all there because of one reason. and it was because we had an interest in Disney, and it was it just made it so easy to get on with people, like people in your work and people at my work, that was one conversation starter sorted straight away.
Yeah,
that you didn't actually even have to like make an effort to go out and make friends. It just happened effortlessly because you had this one thing in common to talk about. And that girl to this day probably doesn't even remember the fact that she even made a Big Bear in the Big Blue House reference to us. But to us at the time, that was like probably the highlight of our day, wasn't it? Really,
it's probably still one of the things that I look back on with the most fondness, because I think we literally, it was like we probably went to Wendy's. We were on our way back from Wendy's.
That's exactly what we're doing, yeah.
And just singing to ourselves, and she chimes in with it.
I think it's because we've seen the moon or something, haven't we? And we called it Luna, and then we're like, yeah.
I love the fact that that's where you got to in terms of your Disney brains.
We both had long days at that point.
Awesome.
We've gotten a bit insane.
Yeah. Too many Wendy's.
Too many Wendy's. Yeah. Too many ice cream machines.
I do miss my Wendy's.
I think. Do you know what? It's really interesting because something you haven't talked about is like life outside the parks, and I know that one of the and I don't want to prolong the agony of living there, but one of the things that you both found was the cost of living was so extremely ridiculous. And I know, John, we've talked a little bit about it on the podcast on previous shows.
Yeah.
You actually found it was cheaper to eat in restaurants and fast food, even in the parks, was cheaper than going to Walmart or Target or let alone let's not even go to Publix. But just the ridiculous cost of groceries, and I know that Morg had bought like tubs to make prep food and make his own lunch and all of that. But it was just so expensive.
That is as long as the one that I got from Walmart on my first night.
Yeah,
for double the price.
Yeah, it was so silly.
I made a spaghetti bolognese one night. It was probably the only time I really cooked for myself the whole time I was there, because it cost me about $15 to make a spaghetti bolognese with ingredients out of the Target, right? And if I was to go to anywhere around Showcase or even like whatever Magic Kingdom foods on offer, these meals you were getting in the parks, they were all like $14, $15 as well. So you could have Disney food cooked for you without the hassle of having to wash up, and it was the same price as buying stuff to cook yourself.
I'd often get
certainly as like a single traveler or somebody out there on your own. I think the
groceries are crazy, aren't they?
Stupidly expensive.
Yeah.
It's one of those that you've sort of got. You don't think about going into it. Like, I know when we went to Walmart, Josh, we both went into it going, it'll be a quick shop. We'll be in and out. We'll get what we need for a week, and then we'll be done.
Yeah. That never happens in Walmart.
We were psyching ourselves out. Because we were psyching ourselves out looking at these prices going, oh my God, like we're on $16 an hour, and to buy a pack of mints, it's costing us $20. Like,
and I was with a Northerner, so he was trying to get all the best deals that he could.
I remember you telling me like 4 apples.
Well.
Like 4 apples.
That's
like
my boy. I like that. Yeah.
A head of broccoli was $8. I'm sorry, no.
Yeah, no. It was crazy money. So you did go to Wendy's a lot.
We went to Wendy's.
Wendy's for a burger, nuggets, chips, and a refillable drink was $5. Like, you actually couldn't knock it.
To be honest,
there was fresh lettuce and tomato on the burger. So I mean, wrong.
I'll tell you what, right? Rather than us going into all this, I actually think we're going to get both of you guys back, either on a podcast
with Naya.
Or
with Naya.
We get you on a Wednesday show, and we talk about some of these really good places to eat.
Yeah,
because I know for a fact, up by Flamingo, there was so many brilliant little places that are generally not, because they're not on the 192, people will miss. So I think we'll get you guys back, because I really do feel that needs to be shared. And whether we do it as a Wednesday or we do it as a podcast, we will make that happen.
I think Naya on a live show could be
interesting.
I am not quite sure that the world is quite ready for that.
I think it might be longer than when you two get off and going.
I think Naya on a podcast might be something that Ben's not quite ready for the editorial part of either. We might. I think we might start on the was we'll start on the easy bit, so we don't get banned from YouTube, and then we'll go from there. I'm gonna try and bring it to a close. I'm very aware, we could keep talking for hours and hours and hours, and we could keep going about different parts of it. I will give a special mention to Zach Brown. I know we mentioned about his podcast, the Zach Brown Show, and a massive thank you to him
and his family. They were.
Oh yeah.
And his family.
Yeah.
I think this is the thing we've now been on.
The Great British Attaché. I think is that a thing? Is that still a thing within sort of
ambassadors to that? They can be the American ambassadors to the Great British Mickey Waffle.
Yeah, I think that, and I think that came across certainly. I think for you and I, Claire, I think that came across as just that whole friendship part of it.
If anybody wants to hear about our roast dinner that we had with the Browns, by the way, do check out Zach's next podcast. I'm pretty sure.
Absolutely.
Where me and Morg are on there, and we go into detail what was on our American version of the British Monday roast dinner.
Oh, I think sort of to chime in quickly as well. I think for us, it was really amazing that we had the community of the Great British Mickey Waffle out there as well as friends of you, of Mum and John.
I've forgotten how many people came to find you guys.
We had Carlos, we had Megan, we had Jason who took us out for a meal one night. We had Zach, obviously.
Yeah, Kelly and Bruce come. And
Kelly and Bruce came and did a meet and greet with me.
Badge made that said, "I'm celebrating meeting Morgan."
She gave me a cast compliment. She went up to a guest information services and said, "I just met this amazing cast member called Morgan in Creations, and he did this for me."
They were amazing.
And so where someone from cast relations came around and went, "Are you Morgan?" I went, "Yeah." And she went, "We just had someone come and talk to us about you." I'm like, "Oh,
brilliant."
And she wasn't drunk at that point.
No. But honestly, it got to the point where people in the classroom were like, "Morgan, there's someone out there for you again." I'm like, "Okay." And people were like, "Why are so many people aware of who you are?" I'm like, "Oh, well, my parents do this podcast." And it's like, but no, it was really amazing for us, I know, to have such a wide variety and amount of people who come and find us and say, "Look, if you need anything, give us a shout." And I think that was really amazing for us.
Carrie was there. Carrie was there.
Carrie,
yeah, and she was there as like a surrogate mum. If there was a problem, we knew we could contact Carrie.
So I think from both of us, thank you to everyone who came to find us or sent us messages of support, because that also made it so much easier for us being away from home for 3 months. Like
Mark came. Mark came and
found me in Creations.
Yeah. I've forgotten how many people came to find you. I think you were easier to find than Josh, probably, because you were in one location.
Yeah. Well, I'd always send them over to Thai Bus if they were looking for Josh, really. So Thai Bus or Trek Snacks.
The thing about Josh,
I'd be there in a little corner weeping away.
he was in different places at different times. So even Alison has a tracker thing on her iPhone. And we're trying to
where's Wally?
But we're trying to find where he is. I'm thinking, hang on, that isn't a vending point. And then we suddenly realised there's a little cart at that particular. And you're like, you think, oh, and then you get Google Maps out to see which direction the sun was shining, and you try which direction. How hot is he going to be today? And I just think the two of you have had such a life-enhancing experience for whatever reason, for good, for bad, for everything. But the whole experience and knowing that there are people out there, not just as part of our community, but there are people out there who really do care for each other. And I think for us as a podcast, I think this might end up being just that theme that we keep going through 2025 of the fact that, it's not about what you can get. It's about what you can actually give to other people, be it a smile, be it something really simple as just being polite, but it makes a difference. And it certainly makes a difference to everybody that becomes part of your life and things like that. And I really do feel that, when you start a new year, you reflect an awful lot on what went in the past, and you guys for the rest of your lives are going to reflect on what was just the most amazing experience. And I think I said this on one of the very first opportunities that we had. I think even Ben said it when he was on the show. If we'd known at your age that you could do this, we would love to have gone and spent a summer at Disney and just lap up exactly what the whole thing is. And I certainly know my brother, he's got his own little life within commerce and retail and things like that. But he has some really nice words to share with you, Josh. As to the fact that as you move on in life, the summer that you had will make people look at your CVs and actually go, yeah, that's quite exceptional. And I think for the two of you, I think that's your takeaway. That's it. Nobody can actually change that from your CVs moving forward.
No, exactly. And I think it's not only part of our CVs, but part of the way we approach job as well. I think the experiences that we've had from working there, for both of us, it's totally different. But I also think it's completely similar in that our attitude towards working and our attitude towards life. We both said it when we went out there. We're out here to work. We're out here as adults working basically a full-time job. We're approaching it
was like having to make ends meet, having to pay rent and having to, pay the cost of living and
exactly. So, and it is what you make it, and that's something that I know I'm definitely going to be taking into everything. Is that actually everything you get in what you put out, you get out what you put in, and that was what we said at the very start, and I think that's very true now as well.
So, I don't know. It's not kind of an end of a show. It's kind of the start of a new beginning. And I think for the two of you, I think with everyone we've had guests on the show, you don't really go away. You come back, and we really want to have you as part of the Great British Mickey Waffle family, because you are part of that family that started from that photograph that Claire and I stumbled across from, was it 2011 when you were both on the same family tour. And I think that for me is the bit that blows my mind about this, that you go on a family tour at Disney and the two of you end up on the same college program in the same year. You supported each other.
In the same flat?
But you supported each other as real friends. And I think, there's a lot to be said about, how does that actually happen? And I think as fate comes together, as we started this podcast, we never knew that all of that was going to happen. We didn't know what had happened in the past. I just think it's one of those real magical things that where Disney's involved, it brings people together, and it always will. And as we bring this amazing chapter of probably the past 18 months to a close, I can just share just how proud I think I am, and I know Claire is, that you've been able to share your experiences with us. If only to give another person just the inspiration to actually follow in your footsteps, and to give them that reassurance that no matter what life throws at you, you learn from it. It makes you a bigger and better person. And I'm sure both of you will be back and be involved in our shows, as you've actually got sort of background knowledge that none of us have got either. So which is even better. I tried to rack it up just in my prep for the show. I actually think that given the number of hours that you both worked last summer, you've probably done more theme park hours than I think I got to about 9 years holiday of 3 weeks would probably bring. So, hours wise, I think you guys are winning. So
pretty sad.
We're not the experts anymore, John.
No, and that's
what Morgan reminded me of in the Sunday. It's like, you're not the expert anymore, Mum. That's my job now. Okay.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I got to a few moments like that last summer, and I think we might come back to that in a later show, Claire. But it's when the offer of carrying the rucksack, the park rucksack, isn't no longer my responsibility. And you're just like, hang on. There's a changing of the guard here as well, Can I just say, guys, both of you, with Josh, you've got your final year at uni. Morg, you're doing your masters. We wish you both the world of good for just the exciting array of life opportunities that lie ahead to you both. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show to share the college program story, We hope it inspires other people. We look forward to having you back to explore more of your Disney knowledge, your magical insights as well. But a big thank you to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure.
It's been really good. And we could go on forever, but we won't. Great British Mickey Waffle style. Anyway, we're back first of the month, February show with another Great British Mickey Waffle podcast. Until then, we'll see you soon.
See you real soon.
Now my wheels in motion and my